Tonight's story was sent in by Mara. She and her family only stopped for one night in Japan, but something didn't want them to leave. It's not a ghost story. It's not folklore. It's what she lived through, and she believes something came back with them. This stories still find a way to crawl under my skin. Every week, people send me letters. Some are strange, some are sad. But once in a while, one comes along that makes the room feel colder just by opening the email. Mara's message was like that. No greeting, no fluff, just a subject line. She had no face. I opened it at 2:03 a.m., sitting here in the booth. One lamp on, rain ticking on the window, big mistake. There are stories you read, and then there are stories you feel. This one wrapped around my chest like a cold hand. Mara says it happened during a stopover in Japan. Just one night at a clean, well-lit airport hotel. Her husband, their 4-year-old son. Nothing about the trip was supposed to be unusual. But if you've been listening to this show long enough, you know it's always the quiet places, the ones that look perfectly safe. It started with whispers. Then the blanket on her son's bed moved. Then someone, or something, sat on the edge of the mattress and began to sob. When her husband turned on the light, that's when he saw her. A woman, sitting there in the dark, crying. And when he reached out to her, she turned around, and she didn't have a face, just skin, smooth, blank. And that was just the beginning. So if you're in bed right now, maybe pull those blankets a little tighter, because this next story might just follow you home. These aren't fiction. Every story we share was sent in by someone who needed to tell it, because it never left them alone. And once you hear it, it might not leave you alone either. So if you're ready to open the inbox of the unexplained, subscribe to Deepcode Diaries. True horror, delivered from real people, straight into the dark. Now, let's read what Mara lived through. I want to share a true story, one that still gives me chills every time I remember it. This happened to me, my husband Noel, and our 4-year-old son Liam, during a stopover in Japan back in 2018. We were en route to visit family, and had booked a room at a well-reviewed airport hotel in Narita. Clean, modern, quiet. It all looked perfect. But something about the air felt off. Not dirty, just unnaturally still. Liam's always had a vivid imagination. But more than that, he sees things, talks to invisible friends, gets upset about things that no one else can sense. My father had the same sensitivity when he was young, and I've always wondered if Liam inherited it. Noel's side of the family has similar stories, relatives who experience things that can't be explained. His grandmother used to call them the thin-skinned ones, people who can feel through the veil. So when Liam said, "Mom, there's someone else in the room with us," we brushed it off. Kids say strange things, right? That evening, we had dinner at the hotel cafe. Liam was unusually quiet, poking at his food, occasionally looking toward the long hallway behind us. "He keeps watching us," he whispered once. But when I asked who, he just shrugged and pressed closer to Noel. The room itself was minimalist, with 2 double beds and a spare mattress on a low platform. We tucked Liam in early, thinking he just needed rest. But sleep didn't bring peace. Around midnight, Liam began murmuring in his sleep, then shouting, "Stop it! Stop it!" like he was arguing with someone. I sat up groggily, thinking it was just a nightmare. But Noel was already out of bed, rushing toward him. And then he froze. The blanket on Liam's bed was moving, not slipping off, tugging. Sharp, angry pulls, like something was yanking it from the foot of the bed. Noel flipped on the light. The tugging stopped. But where Liam had been sleeping, the bed was dented. Deep. Like something large had just been lying there. There was no one else in the room. Liam sobbed and ran to Noel's arms. "She won't leave me alone." We didn't let him sleep alone after that. Later that night, Noel insisted I take the bed with Liam. He offered to sleep on the extra mattress near the window. He fell asleep fast. I didn't. I kept staring at the curtain Liam avoided earlier. It swayed slightly, though no air was blowing. Somewhere in the distance I thought I heard crying. Eventually, exhaustion pulled me under. But Noel woke up again. This time, to wait. Like someone had just sat down at the foot of his bed. Then, sobbing. A quiet, broken wail. Deep, grief-filled, barely human. He sat up, blinking. It was dark, except for the hallway light bleeding under the door. In the dimness, he could make out a figure, hunched, shoulders shaking. Thinking it was me, he whispered, "Are you okay?" No response. He leaned forward and reached out. His fingers brushed long hair. He gripped a shoulder, then gently turned the figure around. She had no face, just flesh, smooth, blank. No eyes, no nose, no mouth, just skin. Noel's breath caught in his throat. And then, my voice, from the bed behind him. "Noel, why are you up?" He turned. I was rubbing my eyes, still groggy. He looked back toward the mattress. The woman, gone. He didn't speak. Couldn't. He just got up, grabbed his jacket, and stepped out for a cigarette. He told me later. I had to convince myself I was still awake. The cold outside didn't help. Noel stood in the alley behind the hotel, staring at the dull red of his cigarette tip, hands trembling. He didn't look at his phone. He didn't even notice the chill. All he could think about was the weight on the bed, the crying, the face that wasn't there. When he returned, the hallway was unnervingly silent. No music, no chatter from neighboring rooms. He stood in front of our door for a moment, key card in one hand, his other hand hovering near the knob. And then, it started. Inside the room. Footsteps. Heavy. Fast. Angry. Rushing across the floor like someone charging from one end of the room to the other. He froze. The sound stopped. His pulse thundered in his ears as he forced himself to swipe the card and push open the door. Nothing. We were both asleep. Me and Liam, curled up in bed, undisturbed. Noel told himself it was a sound from the room next door. A dream. Stress. He crawled into bed beside us, arms wrapped tightly around Liam. But he didn't sleep. Not for a second. Around 4 a.m., I stirred. I needed to use the bathroom. As I stood up, I glanced across the room and saw the spare mattress. There was a body in it. Human-shaped. Still. Under the blanket. I assumed it was Noel. When I returned, I glanced again and saw Noel lying beside Liam. I stopped. Cold poured into my chest like ice water. Then quietly, I stepped toward the other bed. I told myself it was pillows, a trick of the light. I whispered, "Noel?" even though I already knew the answer. No response. I grabbed the edge of the blanket. My hand trembled. Then, I ripped it off. Nothing. No body. No pillows. Just the unmistakable deep impression of a body that had just been lying there seconds ago. The sheet was still warm. I couldn't scream. My voice just locked. I climbed into bed without saying a word. Noel held me tight, and I didn't ask if he was awake. I could feel his heart hammering in his chest. The rest of the night was spent in silence, broken only by our breathing and the occasional twitch from Liam as he slept between us. At the first sign of sunrise, I was already stuffing clothes into our bags. I didn't even brush my teeth. I wanted out. I didn't care about the refund. I didn't care about looking rude. We checked out immediately. The clerk asked if we slept well. I didn't answer. We still had a whole day before our next flight, but we didn't book another hotel. We dragged our bags through the terminal and waited. 10, 12, 14 hours. In plastic chairs, under fluorescent lights, watching Liam play with his toy dinosaur. I kept checking our reflections in the glass windows. I kept counting the shadows beneath our feet, and I kept feeling it. A presence, like something was sitting just behind my shoulder, close enough to whisper. Since that night, I've never looked at hotel beds the same way. If I see a blanket shaped like a body, even slightly, my throat tightens. My chest burns. I want to run. We tried to close Liam's third eye, found someone spiritual, a ritual, a prayer, but it doesn't always stay closed. Sometimes he still stares into the corner of a room and says, "She's back." Sometimes he tells her to go away. Sometimes he just smiles, like he's listening to a joke only he can hear. And sometimes, when the room is quiet, he looks straight past me and says, "She followed us home." Some stories are just stories, but some linger. Like warmth in a bed no one slept in. Like footsteps in a room that should be empty. Like a whisper you never heard, but somehow understood. If this one stays with you tonight, you're not alone. Subscribe to Deepcode Diaries for true horror sent by real people, read in the dark. And if something's ever followed you home, if you've seen what no one else could, we want to hear it. Send your true scary stories to the email in the description. No names required, just the truth, or whatever's haunting you. Until next time, keep the lights on, and whatever you do, don't turn around.